Planet FM 87.6 of Radio Pakistan. I'm your host, Tanveer, and our guest is Zulqurnain Asghar. He is psychologist. Today we are discussing about a person living with a disability. There are number of disabilities that we see every day around us. There are a lot of persons you have seen who have lost their limbs, and some have loss of vision, loss of hearing, and some people we have seen their activity is there is limitation in their activities. They cannot move due to not physically fit. Besides this, some people are not a capacity to solve their problems, and certain people we have seen they cannot go to the park for toileting and bathing and grasping something, eating easily, and definitely their family has to support them to perform their day-to-day activities, needs based activities also. So Mr. Zulqurnain is with us, and he has a very vast experience in research of disability persons, and he has also contributed in number of areas like uh, introducing certain laws for the protection of the disabled person. We will discuss about the law, but first of all, I will ask Mr. Zulqurnain, what about the vocational facilities in Pakistan? Do you think that there are such a special institution for you from which you will start learning, start getting technical vocational training?
Yes, that's a good question, I must say. There are persons living with disability, children living with disabilities can be sent to mainstream education institution across the globe. This practice is prevalent, and it is the responsibility of the state. They should prepare they should ensure the accessibility for all, because education for all under the one roof, that should be mandatory, and that is what our Article 25 of the Constitution that specifically says about this. If we will talk about educational facilities of educational facilities for person living with children living with disabilities, in Punjab and Sindh, every town level, in Punjab every Tehsil level, and in Sindh every taluka level, we have special education schools, but those are not well functioning. Those are not fully functional. That is the fact. And special education is not a solution. There are only few vocational, specially vocational training institutes, technical education institutes for children living with disabilities. But this could be a great help if there are vocational training centers or technical training institute centers for children living with disabilities. At least they can complete fulfill their needs, and their livelihood should be ensured, and that's the important thing. I must say, in inclusive education system, but special education system is not providing solution, because we cannot develop special education institute in every village of the country. We need to um, build capacity of our mainstream education institution. We need to uh, make them accessible, so every child, no one should left behind. Everyone can have access to the education.
Zulqarnain, do you agree with me that the IT education is helpful to the disabled person in learning education at home if they cannot go out, and if there is no proper facility outside, and any institutions, as you have mentioned it, there are certain special institutions, but they are not as functional as that they should be.
Mhm.
Whether it will be because of the shortage of the students, maybe also, or not proper facility of the provision of the teachers, etc. Do you think the IT can play a role in learning and educating the disabled person in Pakistan?
It has a very vital role, I must say, because before computer era, IT era, I used to learn through braille. When computer came in my hand, I think sky has no limits. Same is the case with person living with uh, visual impairment. That is that is really helpful for them. Person living with hearing impairment, that is really helpful for them. Even other kind of children living with person other type of disability, they can get help from it, I must say. But for the computer training, for the IT to acquire this expertise, it is mandatory. They should have minimum knowledge, and that knowledge should be provided to them. And this IT technology bring this brought revolution in the lives of children living with visual impairment or person living with disabilities, because specifically person living with visual impairment and hearing impairment, because it eliminates those barriers that they cannot read or write, but the other barriers are still prevalent in the society. But this barrier, IT has eliminated this barrier. As far as English is concerned, we can read English, we can write English, we can read Urdu also, but lot of the software are not as good in Urdu, because so far there is still needs to do more in IT world with to make it more accessible, especially our as far as our local languages are concerned. But it brought revolution in the lives of person living with disabilities.
Uh, Zulqurnain, do you think that do you have any knowledge that the government provides any maintenance allowance to the families who have disabled children in their home to support them or to share their burden? Is there any facility available in Pakistan?
Yeah, there are facilities, but people are not aware of this, because there was initially there was no facilities in 2009. There was president at that time, President Asif Ali Zardari, when he announced the special CNIC for children living with person living with disability. At that time, he announced the special funds. Baitul Mal is bound to pay the special funds to the person living with disabilities, special friends fund, special friends, and that is at that time that was 50,000 per annum into the 2000.
50,000
50,000 per annum.
for
Sana.
two children.
It get doubled.
It get double now.
More than double. And at that time it get double. One lakh 20,000 120 k PKR. And up with the passage of time in 2014, that has been decreased, and in 2018 that has been decreased, and they have in 2019 they said we will provide 2,000 per month, which is 24,000. That has been decreased. But let's see, there was facilities, but we have acquired these facilities. There is another facility while air travel, if someone has uh, special CNIC, he or she can his or her fare get half. There is a fare relaxation in Pakistan Railway. There is a fare relaxation, and in another thing, travel industry, as far as transportation is concerned, these relaxation are there. But what is the point of providing these relaxation, but if infrastructure is not accessible? They cannot travel. If from Peshawar to Karachi, you hardly find any train station that is fully accessible, except few.
Zulqurnain, you have told that there is 15% disabled person in
Yeah.
Pakistan who have major or minor disability there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Is there any quota in job for their employment in Pakistan to accommodate them, to facilitate them by the government of Pakistan or provincial government? Or any
Yeah.
legislation has been made in this regard?
Yeah, there is a legislation. Maybe this journey has started in 1974, when at that time Prime Minister of Pakistan issued the executive order. Under that executive order, person living with disabilities were counted in 81 census. After that 81 census appears, and there are legislation, especially Balochistan Disability Act, Sindh Empowerment Act for person living with disabilities, Islamabad Disability Right Acts, and Punjab Empowerment Punjab Disability Act, and GB Act. But so far there is no legislation in KP. And in Sindh we have rules are being established, rule of the, because without rule of business legislation is useless. But in rest part of the country there are, so far there are not any rule are not being framed so far. That is a major hindrance. And there is in Sindh there is a 5% quota, Balochistan there is a 5% quota, Punjab 4% quota, and Islamabad proportionate to the strength of the disability. The Islamabad legislation doesn't say talk about the quota.
Do you have any data about the job employment of the disabled person in Pakistan? As you mentioned, there is 15% if the total of population of the Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So how many percentage about the disabled person in employment?
That's a really good question, I must say. If we look, there are low number. Even none of a single department fulfill that quota, because quota means total number of strength of their employees, total strength of their employees, whatever their strength. If they have 2000, 1000 total employees, that means major or minor person having major or minor disability, that number should be 100, 1050. And if they have 10,000 employee, so you can say that their number must be, or you can calculate approximately 500, if we 5% if we take. But there are number of person living with disabilities are being employed. The situation is not that bleak, but that number is not up to the mark, because they don't have, person living with disabilities don't have access to the education, they don't have resources, so they cannot avail those rights, they cannot exercise those rights those are available for them. And even they are not well educated enough, so they can exercise their rights.
Mr. Zulkarnain, we have discussed about the attitude of the family, behavior of the family about the disabled children.
Mm-hmm.
If the family does not own their children to
Mm-hmm.
continue their bringing up, the alternate is that they hand it over to the shelter homes or safe house or where they send their children.
And this is the quite common practice across the country. If children have visual impairment, they send them in madrasas, and they spend their whole life over there. You might have seen the Shadola, that is because they send their children over there most of the time. And sometimes we witness this thing across the country, that if children has intellectual impairment, they are being sent to the shrines, but there are no shelter home for those children, and there should be shelter home, I believe. Because first of all, it's a right of a child, he or she get that warmth, every children is entitled to. If due to any circumstantial reasons, parents are not, you know, willing to provide them that care or that warmth. So there must be shelter homes. And but so far there are no shelter homes. There are few hostel facilities are available, but those are not permanent.
But when they are sent to the Shadola shrine or other
Mm.
shrines, after we have seen
Mhm.
there are children living over there. They can't speak even. They cannot understand.
Mhm.
They cannot take care of their self. Even so, ultimately they face a very
Mhm.
different type of injustice with them.
They live their life in miserable conditions. They face not only injustice, they face brutal behavior, attitude, challenges that is there. And that's why we used to say that it's take care of every citizen. It's the prime responsibility of the state. And since the state state has that mechanism through which the state can make accountable to all those uh, people they are doing injustice with these children. I must say that there must be so far there is a one lacking thing in the Pakistani legislation because there must be clauses which says usually which should say parent must be accountable if they send their children in these where children face hazardous
But it is a matter of rule of law, I think. So, I will ask you about people who are disabled and living in different countries of the world.
Mhm.
Uh, do you know about any betterment in those countries as compared to our country?
There I know, and there is it's usually state provide independent living facilities to those children because most part of the country's houses are made accessible. It's mandatory for the UK or any country. It's mandatory for the council to make accessible housing, to provide them personal assistance and other various facilities which are needed to them. It's mandatory for the state. They provide them those facilities.
Uh, Another question, Mr. Zulqarnain, that about the marriages.
Hmm.
Uh, People are willing to uh, give their daughter for person who is not cannot see, who cannot move independently for marriage.
This is it depends. Depends on the status of that individuals. Usually, boy who man they have a disability, they can exercise their matrimonial rights. But as far as girl, women living with disabilities, they have lot of limitations. They face lot of limitations, and after marriages, there they face lot of challenges.
Both.
Uh, because the issue is usually if they get arranged marriages, the women are not don't understand the different way of living of that person, and that is quite challenging for the woman and for the men also for the both
I
because those.
think this case will be only with the persons who are visually disabled. I think
No,
visually,
no,
while other who can see, who can move easily, but there are other disabilities of like loss of limb or any other body
the,
part.
this challenges we have witnessed this challenging persons they have hearing impairment because they cannot communicate with them, and if this challenging faced by a person they have physical impairment, their partners get started controlling them. They instead of treating them equal human being, usually a man who has disability and who cannot move, their wives starting providing them, treating them just like a mother. And if a man who has a wife with certain disability, they starting providing them fatherly care. That is there, still there. And we witness in most of the cases these things, because being a psychologist, being a therapist, counselor, I've witnessed these things across the country, because I provide counseling and therapy more than 3,300 people living with disabilities.
Zulqarnain, can you tell me that does the impairment travels to next generation if the parents are disabled?
It depends. If there are cousin marriages, it 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 is there is likelihood. But if they are not, there are not cousin marriages, the chances are quite low. Then it's not necessary case. But still chances are there, because we have equal chance. Everyone has equal chance to get impaired. Disability is the thing which can hit anyone, anywhere, any part of the age. Because if one got accident, he or she can uh, get disabled. So
So
any disease.
it can be avoided through medication or medical facility.
It can be avoided through only three things. First, stop doing interfamily marriages. First. Second, provide polio vaccination to your children. Third, uh, improve the treatment with your girl child, and open up them, provide them equal facilities of medication and stuff like that, and provide vaccination to the pregnant mothers also. These are the things through which we can uh, um, uh, we can say reduce this number.
Do you think that there is awareness among the society, among the people, to avoid the cousin marriages, the interfamily marriages regularly?
There is no awareness. Very bluntly, I must say, society is
Even in
quite.
Punjab, I have seen that they will not go outside the family because of the land issues.
Not only in Punjab. This
Also,
this
same
is
in the other areas also.
this is quite prevalent
Feudalism.
in in Balochistan, in KP. These things are quite prevalent there also, because we need to revisit this thought that at least there must be some restriction on cousin marriages, because this is a major contributor of this, not only disability, other hereditary diseases also.
What steps are required to be taken by the government of Pakistan for the betterment of the person living with a disability? Which type of steps you think that should be taken by the government and even the provincial level? And you are also associated with one of the political party that has been very remarkable role in the human rights on human rights issue.
First of all, implementation of those laws. The way Sindh is implementing its law, disability law, deep Sindh has developed DEPD, and that speed must be that implementation must be speed up. And there is another thing, in Punjab, rule must be established, and without, there is most important thing, like Sindh and Punjab, they have set aside one seat for person living with disabilities in local body setup, local government setup. The same should be followed by KP and Balochistan and Islamabad, and there must be political inclusion of person living with disabilities in uh, especially National Assembly, Senate, and Provincial Assembly. If they have seats for quota for women, they have quota for minorities, they have quota for other ethnic identities. Why not person living with disabilities? There must be seat allocation for person living with disabilities, and this is the right time because through constitutional amendment this change can be brought.
Did you take up this issue in forum?
Yeah, I've talked to when this Islamabad law was formulated. I addressed this issue before 2018 election. I addressed this issue, and even in 2010, 11, when Pakistan has ratified this UNCRPD. After that, I took up this issue, and after ratification of the UNCRPD, this right-based approach has been incorporated in Pakistan. Prior to this, we were using medical model or somewhat medical model or charity-based model.
Is there any international organization that represent you or to work for the betterment of the disabled person throughout the world?
There are two conventions of United Nations, Employment and Rehabilitation Convention, that was United Nations Assembly passed that convention in 1981, and Pakistan has signed that convention in uh, 25th September 1995. Shahid Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto's government, Shahid Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto was Prime Minister at that time, and another UNCRPD, United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons Living with Disabilities. That is the convention which bind all governments, those they have signed and ratified those convention, and adopt the optional protocol of those conventions. They can it's mandatory for them to provide them those facilities.
Uh, do you think that there must be a strategy about the awareness about the disabled person in Pakistan, and there should be any special directions should be issued by the government of Pakistan to observe the quota that has been fixed reserved for the disabled person to ensure the job employment to the disabled person in Pakistan?
First of all, will take second part first. There is a percentage of employment quota, and it's mandatory for the all department, even not only public sector but private corporate sector also. If those organizations they are not providing them employment quota, they are bound to deposit the wage of that employment.
So, any role you can see from private sector for the disabled person?
Yeah, they can. There is. They can. Uh, I think they can increase their employment work induct person living with disabilities in their workforce.
Is it possible, you think? Because the private sector, they are not compromising on such a things, I think.
Is it possible if we ensure the effective
But they are
implementation of
in
laws?
private sector, we have been witnessing that they are not implementing the minimum wage even to the unskilled
It's
worker also. I
unfortunate
think it
fact.
is
It's
very
unfortunate.
alarming and very irony, I think.
For even for them, it's mandatory to ensure employment quota. But it's unfortunate fact they are not uh, implementing this quota. Even they don't induct except few. I can name those organizations. Those they have person living with disabilities in their workforce.
Do you think that lack of implementation of rules, law that has been legislated by for the protection of the disabled person, it is the lack of good governance?
Uh, this is not only a result of good
We
lack
have
of.
been, we have been,
This is the result of will. Basically, there is no will. We talk about political will. For this, political will is needed, and political will can be created if person living with disabilities are sitting in the National Assembly, Senate, and Assembly, so they can make them accountable.
In Pakistan, we have been witnessing, we have been experiencing that the mostly people are lastly are resolved to go to the court of law for the implementation of their rights, even that has been legislated also. This trend is, I think, not encouraging because the matter should be done by the department which are responsible for that. Do you think that it is the signs of not good governance?
There are certain things I must say, because being a responsible citizen is a responsibility of every citizen, so they can they can exercise their right, and they can to acquire their rights, they should they can take those department in the court. But this is the unfortunate fact that in Pakistan justice system is not that much speedy, therefore people avoid this. But there are some remarkable work for Justice Mansoor Ali Shah's Punjab's High Court judgment, Supreme Court 14th July, Supreme Court judgments of 14 July 2020. Those are remarkable judgment, and but yet there is lack of implementation of legislation, or their person living with disabilities cannot exercise their rights. Even then, they are, if they are doing this after these remarkable judgments, because these judgments are not being enforced yet.
Thank you, Zulqurnain. You have briefed, you have discussed very informative material in respect of the person living with disability. Listener, person living with disability, they are we see in our society they include loss of limbs, loss of vision, hearing facility. They cannot hear properly. All the issues we have discussed in this interview with the Zulqurnain, but the mostly things which we concluded that the implementation of law which have been made by the government of Pakistan at provincial level, central level, there is a need to implement the laws for the protection of disabled person, so that they can get their right, they can get their job facility in the government department for their proper livelihood. The other point is that if the disabled person who do not get a job, not able to get a job, they should be provided maintenance allowance. Their family should be supported, as Mr. Zulqurnain indicated that the Baitul Mal has a facility to provide the maintenance allowance to their families, but that amount should be increased, because there is a lot of inflation in Pakistan, and it is difficult for a common person and common family to run the family with a limited resources. The other main point that has been very significant, that is the representation of the disabled person in the parliament at the provincial level, in the provincial assembly, because they are 15% of this population, and this 15% population is deprived from their representation in the parliament, either in Senate or National Assembly, and even the provincial assembly. If the representative is available in the parliament, ultimately he can take up their issues, their problems, and that will get support from the parliament for the implementation in the country, Pakistan. These are the points which are required to be considered by the high-ups. And other point is also the rehabilitation of these persons. If they are their families disown them, their families do not take care, and if their families are not ready to keep them with themselves, ultimately there must be a rehabilitation center where they can be sent, where they can be provide living facility with all life requirements. So these are the points which I think this area, this segment of society needs our complete favor, complete support from the public, from the society, from the government, from all the institutions of this country, so that they should not realize they are not properly cared. Thank you very much, Zulqurnain.
Thank you for
Thank you very
having
much,
me, sir.
listener. Allah Hafiz.